8 years ago, I had everything going for me. I was married to the love of my life. My husband's name was Bob. He was a promising lawyer, incredible athlete, competed all around the world doing triathlon, an avid skier. We were living in a small community in the mountains of British Columbia. We have 2 children, and our lives were literally blown apart on New Year's Eve in 1997. We were settled into a quiet dinner party with friends when we were made aware of the fact that a house party was taking place down at the end of our street at the home of a vacationing friend. So we asked the 2 gentlemen that were having dinner with us to accompany him as they walked down the end of our street to make sure that everything was under control. Bob never came home. When they got to the house, the 3 men got separated, and Bob did what I can just imagine him doing. He went straight to the master bedroom to check on our friend's personal space. And when Bob got to the master bedroom, he was punched in the head by a young man who was not happy that he had come to break up the party. Immediately after Bob fell to the ground unconscious, another young man came up to Bob and delivered what he, many years later, described as 4 soccer-type kicks to Bob's head. Bob died on our friend's bedroom floor of a massive brain hemorrhage. At that moment, I realized that somehow I was going to have to find a way to live with whatever had just happened. My twins were 2 weeks shy of their 5th birthday the night their dad was killed, and when they woke up, I sat them down side by side and told them what had happened to their father. And at that moment, I realized, looking into their eyes, that I couldn't make their lives be all about Bob's death. It couldn't be the defining moment for our family. Immediately after Bob's death, the town sunk into a code of silence. Nobody that was at that party would give the police any information about what had happened. Eventually, the police went undercover. I left town, rebuilt my life. 5 years after Bob was killed, I finally got the phone call I'd been waiting for. The police were ready to make an arrest. They were about to arrest a young man by the name of Ryan Aldridge. And I was amazed that my immediate reaction when I heard his name was not that I was angry. I was relieved that finally somebody had been arrested. But I was also overcome with just how devastating the experience had been, how frightening the experience had been, but how there was a complete absence of the emotion of anger. I phoned the police and I explained to them that I wanted to be there when they arrested Ryan. I wanted to meet him. And so I found myself, less than 16 hours after Ryan's arrest, sitting in a small room, ready to confront the man that had killed my husband. It was one of the most powerful experiences of my life. We didn't say a lot to one another, but I explained to him that his confession was the first step, and the next step he may want to consider would be entering a guilty plea so that neither of our families had to face the devastation of a trial. And so he did. 5 years after Bob was killed, Ryan began serving a 5-year sentence for manslaughter in a medium security prison in British Columbia. I worried about Ryan. I worried that he wasn't going to get the help that he needed, that he was going to fall farther and farther into a state of depression and alienation because he had been incarcerated. I learned about something called restorative justice, the process whereby a victim and offender get together and talk about the harm that was done. And I arranged for a facilitator to get Ryan and I together in the prison that he was serving his time in. And it was an amazing experience, filled with tears, but also some laughter, an opportunity to really connect. It demystified the horror of what I expected a killer to be like. Ryan was very, very human. In the years that we were waiting for somebody to be arrested, I developed a presentation for youth on social responsibility, specifically addressing the issues of alcohol and other drugs and how unchaperoned house parties often played host to a whole range of tragic circumstances. And when I went to the prison to meet Ryan, I showed him the work that I had been doing, and I explained to him that I had a very, very powerful message that I had shared with kids right across the country. But what would actually make it more powerful is if he was standing up there working with me. And so I put it out there to Ryan that when he got out of jail, if he wanted to work with me, I would try and make that possible. Well, in the meantime, Ryan wrote a letter for me to include in my presentations. And now that he is coming near the end of his sentence, he actually comes out of jail on day passes, and we work together.
My name is Ryan, and I'm currently serving 5 years in federal prison for manslaughter. I hope that by helping Katy with her program, I can influence today's youth to make better choices than I did.
You are anything less than beautiful. How could anyone
I wrote the book Walking After Midnight because life is about choice. You know, every day things happen to all of us, things we don't choose. Little petty things, you're walking down the street and somebody bumps into you and your bags go flying. Bigger things, somebody backs into your car, or very profound things. You go out with a group of friends and one of your friends doesn't come home. But in every one of those situations, what we all possess is the choice to think about how we feel, to step back and realize that the way that we express ourselves from that point forward is going to impact what happens next. I've learned that forgiveness sets you free for the little day-to-day things, right on up to the profoundly life-changing things. And Walking After Midnight is the exploration of the journey that I made from the moment that my life was shattered by Bob's death through to meeting Ryan and joining with him on that journey of forgiveness. Before I forgave Ryan, I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive myself for not complying with society's expectations for grief and loss, for moving forward quickly with my life, for doing things that literally broke all the rules. Walking After Midnight is a book written for people who haven't found their own voice. I found my voice when Bob was killed, but many, many other victims of violent crime have a completely opposite experience. They're shut down by the experience, and we all become shut down in our lives by certain things that happen. I'm humbled by the opportunity to speak for them and to give them their own voice and believe that they have the potential to turn what seems like the end of their world into the beginning of a new one.